Hello, you absolutely gorgeous individual. I generally do not like exaggerated clickbaity titles and crap, and this title is unfortunately not one of them. I thought it would be a fun idea that for my first time playing through the entire Zenith Seed legendary keyboard desk blasting monitor melee mode challenge, I would only use weapons classified as Sentries by the Terraria Wikipedia. No whips, no accessories that do the work for you, no slimy saddle tomfoolery, no copper short sword business, just me, my Sentry, and 37 enemies whose AI has been rewritten for the sake to perform 78 different ways of turning me into a sad meat salad. Now this video is only the beginning of my journey on how I actually got a Sentry. Instead of me sifting through, no joke, over 50 hours of pre-hard mode gameplay, I decided it was simply not worth it just to put it all in one video to miserably fail on YouTube. So I'll be splitting this playthrough up through several parts. My new miserable journey is one that our brand new character Ice will have to endure. Just as you do with any brand new playthrough, you make a world, and just like my last two playthroughs, I choose a large world for reasons I'll talk about later. I choose Master Mode, which will actually be upgraded to the secret Legendary Mode once I put in the Zenith Seed, and the world evil doesn't matter in the seed, I just like the corruption. I eventually put in the secret password into the Cool Kids Club and name my next 50 plus hours of gameplay appropriately. As my screen has an actual fudging seizure, I should say some things to clarify some of my future actions. Or as one other specific individual would call, the Gamer Ground rules. Rule 1. I will only be using sentries against bosses, and mostly for regular enemies. If a lava bat tries to blast a hole through my torso while I try to make a wall of flesh arena, then I feel it's fair to perform some Shield of Cthulhu / slimy saddle tactics so that this playthrough isn't legitimate heck. But these tactics are strictly forbidden against bosses. 2. No accessories that have extra attacks that do damage, like the Deerclop Skull Thing, Honeycomb, or the Star Cloak. 3. This rule is a repeat of Rule 1. I'm not using mounts, traps, lava, or minecarts as a main source of damage. 4. This isn't really a rule, but a disclaimer. This video is an absolute mess of scripting and gameplay. This was supposed to be uploaded like 6 months ago, and the script was written 6 months ago. So if my scripting sounds a little bit odd, and it's because of poor planning. As soon as I load in, I notice 3 big things that I probably do not need to point out to you. First of which is, ew, gross. Ugh, copper short sword? Gross. Secondly, I'm in heck. I guess all the violent actions against the guide has finally caught up to me. Thirdly, the guide somehow didn't come with me. And fourth, he's now replaced by the princess, the steampunk, the party girl, the hard mode NPC no one cares about, and a parasite-ridden slime made out of the party girl's bathwater that we will gladly never acknowledge. This turned out to be really easy since everybody decided it was the perfect time to simply just die. So since the steampunk was named Whitney, we get our first weapon of the playthrough. That's right, yep, the Ivy. It does a gut blasting 0 damage and actually does absolutely nothing but makes noise that actually does nothing. It's our emotional support guitar. If you don't know about the Zenith Seed or simply needed a reminder, it is a mix of every secret seed cooked up from Relogic's very own oven. But they seem to have done this silly little prank where they put it in the oven for 2 days straight at 6 bajillion degrees and it came out looking like a char stain on a lumpy piece of metal. Crispy Honey is now sentient and resentful. Ash now has a chance to fall when broken. The mushroom biome is absolutely everywhere, and our only way of progression is upwards. So we continue to mine up, and Moonlord legs! It's actually a fantastic movement armor piece that Moonlord himself is jealous of. Once we return home, we get some fallen star all over our hands and clap, making a mana crystal that we promptly crush up and snort. I imagine that spamming sentries may be the thing I do the most in this playthrough, so having ample mana to do so will be vital. Also, fallen stars can drop from slimes and pots. I mean, so can lit bombs and set slimes, but you get the point. Since the constant is built into the world, darkness has hands and will strangle you. So I found this epic gamer strat where the sparks of a minecart will emit light and delay the inevitable. So my second recording of the playthrough contains the most grueling 30 minutes I think I've ever recorded. You know how in a usual playthrough video, the narrator sometimes has a compilation of every chest they found and what was inside? Well, I'm gonna do the same exact thing, but with deaths. Incineration by Honey, Zombie on Roids, Charlie, Piss Slime, Ice Mimic, Diseased Floating Eye, Zombie on Roids, a freaking Life Crystal Boulder, Zombie on Roids, Rectal Poison Dart, Stupid Fudging Ice Blade, Cornea Poison Dart, Mimic, Lava that does 200 damage, Sapphire Hook, Pink Bouncy Rock, Charlie, Zombie on Roids, Fall Damage, Charlie, Stupid Friendship Bracelet, whoa, that's actually kinda good, Pelvis Poison Dart, an actual nuclear bomb, and a Medusa. In between all these deaths, I was able to progress a little bit with 7 life crystals and... Is that? I found him! Look! My main goal now was to make it to the surface, which is very boring. It's literally just digging up to the surface. Oh my gosh, flurry boots! Once I get to the surface, oh my gosh, yes! Once I get to the surface... Is that a living mahogany tree? Once I get to the surface, I'll be able to maybe actually get a weapon. I need more rope. Digging upwards is so abhorrently boring that I'd rather be doing anything else. Buying this rope to expand the heaven evader is more exciting than digging up. Once I get to the surface, I will build an absolute unit of an arena. And I already hear little Timmy in the back of the classroom picking his nose and saying along with the rest of the classroom, hey, bath faucet, why would you build an arena if you can't even fight anything yet? Well, class, what weapon could I fight anything with? There's only 5 pre-hard mode sentries, 4 of which are sold by the Tavern Keep, who only spawns after the world evil boss is killed. The other one is the Houndiest Shootiest, which is dropped by Deerclops after killing it. And that's the issue. I have to kill in order to get any weapon. So what do? Do I get my NPCs to use their puny knives and arrows, doing 1 damage each to kill a boss with over 10,000 health? Do I use lava to burn away the sins of Deerclops? Do I bend the challenge to include mounts? No. I'm going to do something way zestier and way more painfuler. I'm going to make an arena where nothing can spawn, allowing a true 1v1 against me and the world evil boss, with the skies opened up to us so that fallen stars can occasionally rain down on the arena, and hopefully they will land on the boss, doing substantial damage. This was my current stupid plan, and it's pretty much bound to change because what the frick am I doing? But as this horrendous thing as my only plan, I figured that I must do it as soon as possible so I can actually do some sort of progression. I make it up to the lava layer, which is closer to the surface in the seed. This is inherited from the don't dig up seed. The surface is in the caverns, the underground in the caverns, and the caverns in the underground. After an hour and a half of digging through lava-infested crispy honey and countless bee-ridden hive blocks, it eventually stops. It's just all mud. If you haven't seen your fair share of Zenith seed, then you may expect the surface to have colorful trees, or maybe something similar to the LSD trip the mushroom biome gives on this world. Or you may be expecting to see an endless jungle because of the mud, and not the bees being implemented. What you probably didn't guess is a disgusting and cancerous, mentally degrading pile of corruption mixing with the pus-filled, unusually warm, eyeball-ridden piece of garbage known as the Crimson. As I get actually freaking de-intestinized by a Crimea, it dawns on me that I'm just not feeling it. In fact, I'm not feeling it so much that I end the recording. Hello, and welcome to my 72-hour stream where I strapped a camera to my face for 72 hours so you can experience the POV of me for 72 hours. I just woke up, so I will start my morning routine by having a diseased worm eat my insides. The second half of my morning is spent finding a jungle with a fishing rod that spreads fiberglass all over the various sea life that were unfortunate enough to live in my secret fishing spot. Once it's noon, I go back to Worm and Germ Haven, and down to the Crimson Caves to scratch that. Let's start our grand unit of an arena. Now, I cut about 15 minutes of me barely making progress and dying to worms. Worm? How am I supposed to make an entertaining video if all I'm doing is staring at a 15-second death timer longer than I am actually playing the game? It appears I will be cutting my 72-hour POV stream short. I hope you liked my 72 hours stream where I lost over 20 limbs somehow, and see you next This is around the time where my spine has this horrible chill, and it really made me have a tummy ache. I don't know why I did this. Looking back, I wish I simply didn't go for The Undertaker. What was I doing for a weapon I couldn't use? I don't know, I guess I could have sold it for money, or I guess I might have had some sort of fetish back then, I just don't remember. It could have been for some emotional support I desperately needed. I mean, it can't really be any of those options. I already have crimson enemies the size of the moon to tell me everything is going to be okay. I already have celestial bodies falling from the heavens to bestow me with a concussion. I already made a gel farm with a statue and minecart trap. I even have the goblins to help me. Oh, goblins! Oh, no. Oh, that is bad. That is really, really bad. This isn't your average master mode angry mob. This is your above average toe-sucking goons who know 8 different ways of disemboweling you. I know I already used that joke in the intro, but I need to emphasize that killing goblins is not possible to do with a sentry when I don't have a sentry. That Crimson Heart I destroyed, I'm going to swallow that The Undertaker. How am I supposed to kill 100 entire goblins if I can't? Oh, it just so happens that I need to continue working on the arena, and the goblins seem just fine walking into lava, which doesn't do a lick of damage outside of the fire debuff. This is a trait inherited from the Don't Dig Up seed, which increases the base damage of lava to 200 for players and a measly 0 for enemies, but they are still inflicted with the On Fire debuff, which does an astounding 4 DPS. Every single enemy, goblin toe suckers or not, only takes 4 DPS from lava. So I am left with treating Terraria as a bullet heck, as 6 goblin sorcerer dinosaurs hurl their wall-phasing balls at me. This took an hour and 40 minutes. That's actually not as long as I thought it would be. Building this arena is not really that fun. I am bored out of my mind watching in the 9, 8, 7. I have just the tune in mind to listen to as I do something marginally more entertaining. Instead of taking hours to build a giant arena for game progression, I take hours to build a home base that is completely optional and isn't necessary for getting a sentry. But I figured that I should at least make something since my last 2 playthroughs had something special. There was the forest-dwelling wooden gooning castle, and of course I can't forget the sky pill. So let's get a little zesty with our housing placement. I've already been to space in the forest. Yeah, you can already see where I'm building. It's the sneaky secret ice command center. The secret ice base, if you will. This is what it looks like in the blood moon. Looking spiffy. Now we have some pylon action to be closer to the surface. Okay, back to arena building. With the lava pit preventing enemies from spawning and 2 large walls enclosing the arena, I build a skybox small enough so that none of it can go off screen, which, you know, would spawn enemies if it were off screen. I immediately forget that, and you can guess what happens. My ability to stay alive in the underground crimson is similar to a cat's ability to stay alive on a busy freeway, so I'll need to make some bloody spines to avoid breaking more crimson hearts. To do that, I need vertebrae, which drops from various crimson enemies. Therefore, making an AFK Crimson enemy cheek slapper farm will be perfect for their taking 4 DPS. After doing various tasks around the house, I sat at my desk watching Astral Spiff videos. I was able to gather 513 vertebrae. This is more than enough, and I still need vicious powder from vicious mushrooms in order to make the spine. Vicious powder. Mood. After scarab bombing my way to a demon altar in the crimson, I cook up 2 bloody spines. I then proceeded to go to the desert for scarab bombs for some reason, then made a minecart track towards the jungle so that it's easier to access. The frick is this? Okay, doesn't matter. I smash a vital crystal into my forehead to get some extra regen. I crush up an arcane crystal into a fine powder and do the same thing that I did with the mana crystals, and then I eat ambrosia, the glass and all. My last preparations involve 3 heart lamps, corrupted housing, I can't believe I forgot about that, a campfire, a honey sauna, a respawn room, and a gnome, which grants me a minuscule amount of luck. I'm gonna need it. Our first attempt... What the frick is happening? Our first attempt went so well that the brain didn't even touch us. He got so scared of our sheer testosterone-filled gamer bods and proceeded to run away. I didn't have enough crimstone blocks down. Our first real attempt starts with the Crimea. You see, we made a bloody spine for the Brain of Cthulhu, but when we tried to give it the spine, it misunderstood and took my spine instead. That puts me at a total of 0 spines. Maybe I could travel to the surface easier if I... Okay. Cool to see a sandstorm in a bottle in a purple pyramid. Why is it purple? On our 3rd attempt, the brain doesn't exist. I'm not going to fight the brain. And I'm not necessarily going to wait for fallen stars to kill a cheeks-eating worm either. In fact, I realized I didn't even need fallen stars at all. So, Terraria has this thing called an NPC limit. And NPCs in this game doesn't only include the town NPCs. NPCs include enemies, bosses, critters, NPCs. Wait, there can only be 200 NPCs in the game at once. Once this limit is reached, it will effectively stop most things from spawning. I'm not going to explain the entire process here. I might link a wiki page about there's a wiki page about it. Why would I even care about an NPC limit that I heard absolutely no one asking? Well, it turns out that the worm segments are also NPCs, and the Eater of Worlds has many worm segments. So if you reach the NPC limit, which is easily done with dummies and beehives, then open up a few NPC slots for the Eater, you get Tiny Eater, not eating worlds but its own self-esteem. Here's a little Wormage 101 for you. A worm segment, Eater of Worlds or not, cannot exist on its own. Every worm type of enemy must at least have a head and a tail. 2 segments, 2 NPCs. It's like when you kill the second to last segment on the Eater of Worlds. The tail doesn't just live on its own, it dies along with the segment killed. So the question becomes, what would happen if you only left 1 NPC slot for the Eater of Worlds to spawn in? It immediately dies. Only 1 segment could spawn, which cannot exist on its own, so it is coded to just die. And that was it. I beat the world evil boss without doing any damage to it at all. Was it kind of cheap to cheese the game in order to kill the world evil boss instantly? Absolutely. Do I care? Absolutely not. The thing about an only Sentries playthrough is that you need a sentry. And technically no rule was broken when the Eater couldn't handle itself without a body. This is only the first part to getting our hands on a sentry, since the Eater doesn't actually drop a sentry. Defeating it makes it possible for the Tavern Keep to spawn, who does sell sentries. So I chug a hunter extra potion and walk back and forth in the caves until, hello. I walk over to the passed out drunk man, slap his bald head 4.5 times, and tickle his eyebrows. He seems unfazed by this interaction and gives me 10 defender medals as soon as I mention crystals. I take this opportunity to buy a flame burst rod and several crystals. I chose the flame burst rod because of its ability to not suck as bad as the other sentries. Our first weapon! This only took 12 recordings, and I can't even use it yet. In order to use any of the Tavern Keep sentries, you must first defeat the Old One's army. Oh yes, I have rewritten this part of the script at least 2 times. Outside of the Old One's army, you can only have a limited amount of sentries placed down. It's like how a normal summoner increases their minion count with accessories and armor, but the minion count is different from your sentry count, meaning there are separate armor sets and accessories for normal summoners and sentry users. By default, you get 1 sentry slot, so I'm able to only place 1 sentry. However, the Old One's army got a little bit quirky with it. During the Old One's army, the Tavern Keep sentries do not have a limit to how many you could place, but in order to prevent you from placing down infinity sentries, they cost 10 etherean mana, different from the normal Terrarian mana we're used to. You only get etherean mana from the start of the event and slowly by killing enemies. All the etherean mana and Tavern Keep sentries disappear once you either beat the Old One's army or they beat you. This is all to say, I am not getting enough mana to fend off the army, so I hammer a block into a wedge and block swap into a platform, which does some weird crap with the game I don't really understand, but it somehow prevents everything from walking past. This does 2 big things for me. First is that they can't reach the crystal, which is how you lose, and second is that they are grouped together, allowing my flame burst rod to do ideal crowd control damage. Everything came to a harsh, crushing reality when the 4th wave introduces these stupid little pieces of stupid idiots with their main personality trait being able to fly. I have a solution for this, which is an exploit that I am surprised hasn't been patched yet. Since etherean mana is an item, you could place it in a chest which will save throughout several Old One's army events. So after saving up mana from dozens of events, this took way longer than it needed to, but I finally bring out my 979 mana. That is enough for 97 flame burst sentries. Most of the army can't even leave the portal without getting the power of the sun blasted at them. I did not need 979 mana. I could have done this way faster. The wyverns cannot keep up and are no longer an issue. The final wave of the tier 1 Old One's army is the Dark Mage, who does some weird magic. Holy flippin' shiz. Once the mage falls, the crystal begins to shine, rewarding me with 3 defender medals. Wow. The Dark Mage dropped a war table, a furniture item that grants me a buff which allows me to have an extra sentry placed down, and the Apprentice Scarf, which is an accessory that allows me to have an extra sentry placed down. The mage does drop another accessory that does the exact same thing as the scarf, but Relogic thought, it would be kind of funny if we made the effects not stack. There are 2 other accessories that do the exact same thing and not stack with each other. I mean, I get it for balancing reasons, but like, why 4 different accessories? Like, you could just have 1. This maxes out my sentry count at 3 for the rest of pre-hard mode. I have no idea how to transition to a conclusion, so here we are. This video was an amalgamation of 13 separate recordings. Getting a functional sentry took very long. My next upload is planned to be the rest of pre-hard mode until right before the Wall of Flesh. So if you want to follow this grueling nard blasting journey, then you could look forward to an upload every other Friday. Unless you're watching this like 4 months in the future, then the entire playthrough will probably be out by then. Okay, you probably humble viewers, I have some laundry to fold, so yeah.